You'll never be as successful as your brother. Not whispered, not said behind closed doors, not even softened, said out loud, into a microphone, at a graduation, in front of everyone. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. The applause had just started to fade when it happened. Caps in the air, parents standing, cameras flashing, one of those perfect polished moments people replay for years. And then, that. The room didn't go silent all at once. It staggered into silence. Like people weren't sure if they actually heard it correctly. But Amelia Avery heard it. Every word, every syllable. And the worst part? She didn't look surprised. She stood there, 18 years old, diploma still in her hand, shoulders straight, eyes steady, like this moment had been building for years. Let me ask you something. What would you do if the one person who's supposed to be proud of you tears you down at your biggest moment? Would you walk away? Would you cry? Or would you do exactly what Amelia did next? Because she didn't freeze. She moved. Slowly at first. One step forward, then another, toward the microphone. Now, to understand why that moment mattered. You have to understand Amelia. Amelia Avery wasn't the loud one, not the rebellious one, not the attention seeker. She was the quiet achiever. Top grades, perfect attendance. Teachers loved her. The kind of student who didn't just do the work, she understood it. But if you asked anyone at that school about the Avery family, they wouldn't mention her first. They'd say, "Oh, Ethan's sister." Ethan Avery, 22, confident, charismatic, studying business, the kind of guy people naturally gravitated toward, the golden child. And Amelia? The comparison, always the comparison. Why can't you be more like your brother? Your brother already has a plan. Your brother understands how the real world works. That last one, that was her mother's favorite. Caroline Avery, polished, composed, the kind of woman who cared about appearances more than explanations. To the outside world, she had the perfect family. Successful son, smart daughter, stable life. But inside the Avery household, things didn't balance. They tilted. Toward Ethan. Every achievement of his was amplified. Every achievement of Amelia's was expected, neutral, dismissed, filed away. And her father, David Avery, quiet. Present, but never intervening. The kind of man who heard everything and said nothing, which made one thing very clear to Amelia very early on. No one was coming to even the scale, so she stopped expecting fairness and started observing. Listening, not reacting. Because here's what most people didn't notice about Amelia. She wasn't weak, she was patient. And patience, when mixed with years of being overlooked, turns into something else entirely. Something sharper, something deliberate. Back to the graduation. Amelia had already walked the stage, already shaken hands, already done everything right. She should have been relieved, proud even. But instead, there was this quiet tension sitting in her chest, because something about today felt final. Not just the end of school, the end of something else. Earlier that morning, she had stood in front of the mirror, adjusting her gown, staring at her own reflection a second longer than usual. And she had said something, soft, almost like a promise. After today, it's done. Done with what? That part? She didn't explain. Now fast forward again, her mother's voice still echoing. You'll never be as successful as your brother. People shifting in their seats, some pretending not to hear, others very clearly hearing everything. Ethan? Half smile, awkward, not stopping it. Her father? Still. Too still. And Amelia? She adjusted her grip on the diploma, not tight enough to shake, just enough to steady herself. Then she walked. Right past the line of graduates, right past the confused staff, straight to the microphone. No rush, no hesitation. And when she reached it, she didn't look at the crowd first. She looked at her mother, held the eye contact, let the silence stretch just long enough to make everyone uncomfortable. Then she leaned in slightly and spoke. Then he can pay your loans. And just like that, the entire room shifted. Because that wasn't a comeback. That was something else. And her father's voice, cutting through the silence just seconds later, made it very clear. Loans? A pause. What loans? That wasn't a comeback. It was a warning. The words hung in the air, heavier than anything her mother had said just seconds before. But here's the thing. Moments like that don't come out of nowhere. They build. Quietly, slowly, over years. So how did Amelia Avery get to the point where she would say something like that, in front of everyone? Let's rewind. Amelia learned early on that in her house, attention wasn't evenly distributed, it was earned. And even then, not always given. Ethan didn't have to try very hard. He got a B. Still impressive. He joined a club for a month and quit. At least he's exploring his interests. Meanwhile, Amelia? Straight A's were expected, not celebrated. Expected. When she got top of her class in sophomore year, her mother smiled politely and said, "Well, that's what you're supposed to do. No dinner, no congratulations. Just acknowledgement." But when Ethan got accepted into a mid-tier business program, Caroline threw a party, a full one, decorations, guests, photos, speeches. Amelia remembered standing in the corner of their living room that night, holding a drink she didn't even want, and listening to her mother say, "This is what success looks like." And something about that sentence stayed with her, not because it hurt, but because it clarified something. Ethan wasn't cruel. That's what made it complicated. He wasn't going out of his way to tear Amelia down. He just existed in a world where things worked out for him, where praise followed him naturally, where their mother's approval was constant. Sometimes he'd make comments, casual ones. "You overthink things, Amelia. Real success isn't just grades. Not aggressive, not malicious, just dismissive enough." And every time their mother would nod in agreement, their father, he'd be there, sitting at the table, watching, listening. Sometimes he'd look like he wanted to say something, but he never did. And over time, Amelia stopped expecting him to. But here's where things started to shift. Not loudly, not dramatically, subtly. It started with small inconsistencies, bills that disappeared too quickly, mail that never reached her, conversations that ended the moment she entered the room. At first, she ignored it. Because honestly, why wouldn't she? What 17-year-old immediately assumes something is wrong with their family's finances? But then came the first moment that didn't sit right. It was late, past midnight. Amelia had come downstairs to get water when she heard her mother's voice. Sharp, strained, not the polished tone she used during the day. Something else. "I said I'll handle it. Just give me more time." Pause. "I can't have this showing up now." Amelia froze halfway down the stairs. She wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but she didn't move either. And because something in her mother's voice felt off. Not stressed, desperate. Then silence. A click. And when Amelia stepped into the kitchen, her mother was already there. Phone gone, expression reset, composed again. "Why are you up?" Caroline asked, like nothing had happened. "Just water," Amelia replied. A beat. Then her mother smiled. Too quickly. "Go back to bed." That should have been the end of it. Just a weird moment. Easily explained. But it wasn't. Because after that, Amelia started noticing more patterns. And once you see a pattern, it's hard to unsee it. A week later, she found something, not intentionally. It wasn't like she was searching. Her mother had left a folder on the dining table. Open, just slightly, enough. Amelia almost walked past it. Almost. But something, instinct, curiosity, and maybe that same quiet patience made her stop. She glanced down, then leaned closer, then flipped it open. Just one page. That's all it took. Her name was on it, Amelia Avery. At first, she didn't understand what she was looking at. Numbers, large ones, columns, interest rates, payment schedules. Then one word stood out. Loan. Her stomach dropped, because she knew one thing for certain. She had never taken out a loan, not once, not ever. And yet, there it was, under her name. A number so high it didn't even feel real. She didn't react right away, didn't panic, didn't confront anyone. She just stood there, staring at the paper, her thoughts moving faster than her expression. Because deep down, she already knew. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't random. This was something else, something intentional. And as she slowly closed the folder, one realization settled in. Cold. Clear. Unavoidable. This wasn't just about favoritism anymore. The problem wasn't favoritism anymore. It was betrayal. Let that sink in for a second, because realizing your parent prefers your sibling, that hurts. But realizing they may have used your identity for something you never agreed to, that's something else entirely. Amelia didn't storm into the living room waving the paper. She didn't confront anyone. She didn't even mention it. Instead, she did something much quieter. She put the folder back exactly where she found it, closed it carefully, and walked away like nothing happened. Why? Because Amelia had spent years being overlooked. And when you're overlooked long enough, you learn something powerful. You see more than people think you do. The next morning, everything felt normal. Too normal. Her mother sipping coffee, scrolling through her phone. Ethan talking about some internship opportunity like the world was already his. Her father reading the news, silent as usual. And Amelia, she watched. Not suspiciously, not obviously, just carefully. Trying to answer one question. How long has this been happening? That same day after school, Amelia made her first move. Not emotional, practical. She went to her room, opened her laptop, and checked her credit report. At first, she expected to find that one loan. Maybe a misunderstanding, maybe something explainable. But as the page loaded, her breath slowed, then stopped. Because it wasn't one, it was multiple. Different accounts, different amounts, different dates, all under her name, all real, all active. She stared at the screen, scrolling slowly, her mind trying to catch up. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't accidental. This was a pattern, a system. And the worst part, some of these accounts had been opened years ago, before she even fully understood what credit was. So now the question changed. Not what is this, but who did this? And deep down, she already knew the answer. Still, she needed confirmation, not assumptions, not guesses. Proof. That night, she didn't sleep. Not really. She laid there, staring at the ceiling, replaying every small moment that suddenly made sense. The missing mail, the I'll handle it conversations, the way her mother always insisted on managing anything financial. And then, the excuses. Don't worry about it. You don't need to understand this yet. I've got everything under control. By morning, Amelia had made a decision. She wasn't going to guess anymore. She was going to ask, directly. She found her mother in the kitchen again. Same place, same routine, almost like a loop. Mom, Amelia said, holding her phone. Caroline looked up, mildly annoyed. What is it? Amelia didn't ease into it. She turned the screen around, showed her the accounts, the loans, her name. For the first time, just a flicker, Caroline's expression changed. Barely, but Amelia saw it. And that was enough. What is this? Amelia asked, calm, controlled, not emotional. Caroline glanced at the phone, then back at her. And just like that, the moment passed. Her expression reset. That? She said casually. It's nothing. Nothing. Amelia blinked. Nothing? She repeated. It's for the family, Caroline said, turning back to her coffee. You'll benefit from it later. Benefit? From debt she didn't agree to. From accounts she didn't open. Did you put these in my name? Amelia asked. Now it was direct. Clear, no room to dodge. Caroline sighed, like this conversation was an inconvenience. Amelia, don't be dramatic. That was it. No denial, no explanation, just dismissal. And right there, something shifted. Not loudly, not emotionally, but permanently. Because Amelia realized something important. Her mother wasn't going to admit anything. Not here. Not like this. Which meant, if Amelia wanted the truth to matter, she needed more than questions. She needed evidence. So she stopped pushing. Right there, on mid-conversation. She nodded slightly, like she accepted the answer. Okay, she said, and walked away. That was the moment her strategy changed. No more confronting, no more reacting. Now, she was building a case. Over the next few weeks, Amelia moved carefully, quietly. She gathered everything. Screenshots, documents, account numbers. She requested records, saved emails, even recorded conversations. Subtle ones, where her mother slipped just enough information to confirm what she already suspected. And all the while, she acted normal. Went to school, studied, smiled when expected, played the role she'd always played. Meanwhile, graduation got closer, the house got busier, plans were made, dinner reservations, outfits, photos. Her mother bragging about Ethan as usual. Wait until everyone sees where he's going next," Caroline said one night. Amelia just nodded, because now she saw everything differently. Every word, every action. It all fit into a bigger picture. Then came the final confirmation. An email, official, clear, unavoidable. The accounts in her name, fraudulent, legally, undeniably. Amelia read it once, then again, then closed her laptop slowly. Because now this wasn't just personal. This was serious. The kind of serious that changes lives. And sitting there in the quiet of her room, her eyes drifted to one thing. Her graduation program, folded neatly on her desk. She picked it up, opened it, ran her finger down the list of names, until she found hers, Amelia Avery, and right next to it, student speaker. She stared at it for a long moment, then exhaled. I'll slow, steady, decided. Because suddenly, she knew exactly when she was going to say it. She didn't plan to argue. She planned to expose. Graduation day didn't feel real, not because of the ceremony, not because of the crowd, but because Amelia woke up with a kind of calm that didn't match the weight of what she was about to do. No nerves, no panic, just clarity. Have you ever had a moment where everything clicks into place? Where fear gets replaced by something colder, more focused? That's where Amelia was. The morning moved like a routine, her mother adjusting her outfit, making small comments about appearance. Stand straight. Don't look nervous. Remember, people are watching. Amelia nodded, not because she agreed, but because it didn't matter anymore. Ethan showed up late, as usual, confident, relaxed. I'm already talking about what comes next. Big things coming, he said, half joking, half serious. Their mother smiled immediately. Of course they are. That familiar tone, pride, certainty, like his success was already guaranteed. Amelia watched them both, not with anger, not even resentment, just understanding. Because now she knew something they didn't. This wasn't just another family moment. This was the last time things would look like this. The ceremony began. Rows of students, families filling the seats, cameras ready. Names were called one by one, applause rising and falling like waves. Amelia sat still, hands folded in her lap, her graduation gown perfectly in place. Inside, everything was aligned. No second guessing, no hesitation. Then her name. Amelia Avery. Applause. She stood, walked, took the diploma, smiled politely for the photo. Everything exactly as expected, exactly as planned. She returned to her seat and waited, because her moment wasn't over, not even close. Time passed, speeches began, teachers, administrators, words about future, success, opportunity, all of it sounding distant, muted, because Amelia wasn't listening. She was waiting. Then it happened. Unscripted, unexpected. Her mother's voice, cutting through everything. You'll never be as successful as your brother. Not loud enough to stop the event, but loud enough. Enough for the people nearby. Enough for the moment to shift. This time, we see it clearly. Not just the words, but the intention behind them. A reinforcement, a reminder. A line meant to keep Amelia exactly where she had always been. Second, but something went wrong. Because Amelia didn't shrink. She didn't look embarrassed. She didn't sit back down and pretend nothing happened. She stood. And here's where everything changes. Because this wasn't reaction. This was execution. She stepped forward. Slow, controlled. Every movement deliberate. People started noticing. Whispers spread. Where is she going? Is she supposed to? Teachers glanced at each other, unsure, too late to stop it. Amelia walked past the line of graduates, past the staff, straight to the microphone. The same one used for speeches, the same one meant for polished, approved words. She reached it, paused. And instead of looking at the crowd, she looked at her mother. Locked eye contact, didn't break it. Not once. Then she leaned in slightly and said it. Clear, calm. Then he can pay your loans. The reaction wasn't instant. It never is. Shock doesn't hit all at once. It ripples. A few people frowned. Some turned to each other. Others leaned forward, trying to process what they just heard. Loans? What loans? Then came the shift. Her father, David Avery. He had been sitting still all ceremony, quiet, observing. But now, he moved. Loans? His voice wasn't loud, but it cut through everything, sharp, focused, confused. He stood up, actually stood, which, for him, was already unusual. What loans? He asked again, this time louder. Ethan's expression changed, from mild amusement to something else, uncertainty. Because now, he didn't understand either. And Caroline, for the first time, she didn't have control of the moment. Her posture stiffened. When her expression flickered, that polished composure, cracking. All eyes turned back to Amelia, still standing at the microphone, still calm, still not finished. Because this wasn't the reveal. Not yet. This was just the first crack. And as the silence stretched, thick and uncomfortable, Amelia took a breath. Not shaky, not uncertain, measured. She looked at her father, then at the crowd, then back at the microphone, and in that moment, it became clear to everyone watching. She wasn't backing down. She was about to say more. She wasn't finished, not even close. The silence in the auditorium stretched so thin it felt like it might snap. Hundreds of people, students, parents, teachers, all waiting, all watching. And at the center of it, Amelia Avery, standing at the microphone, completely still, and as if she had all the time in the world. She didn't rush. That's what made it heavier. She let the silence sit, let people feel the confusion, the discomfort. Then, she spoke again. Since everyone's already listening, Amelia said, her voice steady, I think it's only fair to explain. A few staff members shifted, unsure whether to intervene, but no one stepped forward, because something about her tone made it clear. Interrupting her now would only make things worse. Amelia glanced briefly at her father, then back at the crowd. My name has been used to take out multiple loans, she said, without my knowledge, without my consent. A ripple moved through the audience, not loud, but unmistakable. She didn't raise her voice, didn't dramatize it, she just stated facts. The accounts go back years, she continued, way before I was even old enough to understand what any of it meant. Now people were whispering, phones subtly lifting, recording. Her father shook his head slightly, like he was trying to reject what he was hearing. That doesn't make sense, he said. That's not. Amelia didn't argue with him. She simply added, I checked everything, credit reports, statements, legal confirmation. Then a beat. They're real. All eyes turned to Caroline, because now there was only one question left. Caroline laughed, short, controlled, the kind of laugh people use when they think they can still steer the situation back in their favor. This is not the time or place for this, she said, standing up. Amelia, stop. But there was something missing from her voice. Certainty. Amelia didn't move, didn't step back. If it's not the time, she replied calmly, then when was it supposed to be? That landed. Harder than anything else so far. Caroline's expression tightened. This was for the family, she snapped. You don't understand how these things work. There it was. Not a denial, an explanation. And that was all Amelia needed. For the family, Amelia repeated. Then for the first time, something shifted in her voice. Not anger, not sadness, clarity. I was never asked, she said. I was never told. I was just used. Her father sat down slowly, like the weight of it had finally caught up to him. You used her name? He asked quietly, looking at Caroline. No response, not immediately. Ethan looked between them, confused, then unsettled. Wait, what does that mean? He asked. Like, how much are we talking about? Amelia didn't look at him. "Enough to ruin my future if it stayed in my name," she said. That was the moment everything shifted. Not just emotionally, realistically. Because now, this wasn't just a family argument. This was something bigger. Amelia took a small step back from the microphone, not retreating, just finished explaining. "I've already spoken to someone about it," she added. "Legally." That word landed differently. Legally. Caroline's composure broke, not loudly, but visibly. "You went behind my back," she said, and Amelia almost smiled, not out of humor, but because of the irony. Behind her back. "For years," Amelia said quietly, "everything was done behind mine." And just like that, there was nothing left to argue. In the weeks that followed, everything Amelia said was confirmed. Every account, every loan, every signature, fraudulent. The investigation moved quickly because the evidence wasn't complicated. It was clear, documented, undeniable. Amelia didn't cry at the ceremony, not on stage, not when people stared, not when her world shifted in front of everyone. But later, alone, there was a release, not loud, not dramatic, just a quiet exhale she had been holding in for years, because for the first time, she wasn't carrying something that wasn't hers. Her father changed. That was immediate. The silence he had lived in for years? Gone, replaced with something sharper, regret, an action. He supported the investigation, fully, no hesitation, Ethan struggled. Not because he was guilty, but because he had to reevaluate everything. On the lifestyle, the assumptions, the way things just worked out. His relationship with Amelia didn't fix overnight, but it changed. Because now, he saw her, not as a comparison, but as someone who had been dealing with something he never noticed. Caroline faced legal consequences, charges related to financial fraud, penalties, public exposure. The same image she spent years building collapsed, quietly, completely. Socially, the impact spread fast. The graduation incident circulated. People talked, not just about what happened, but about how long it must have been happening. Amelia's situation, though, it shifted in the opposite direction. The fraudulent debt was removed. Her record cleared, completely. Her school stepped in with support. Mentors reached out and opportunities opened. Not out of pity, but because now her full story was visible. Final resolution moment. Months later, the noise had faded. The story wasn't circulating the same way anymore. Things settled. Amelia stood on a college campus, backpack over her shoulder, walking between buildings she chose. A future that was actually hers. No comparisons, no hidden weight, no quiet manipulation sitting in the background. Her phone buzzed once. A message from Ethan. Short, simple. "I get it now." She read it. Didn't respond immediately, not out of anger, just because she didn't need to rush anything anymore. She slipped her phone back into her pocket, kept walking, because for the first time, she wasn't trying to prove anything, not to her mother, not to her brother, not to anyone. And as she crossed the campus, blending into a crowd that didn't know her past, one thought settled in, clear and steady. She was never behind. She was just being held back. And now, she wasn't.